Good morning. My name is Dr. Larry Force, and I'm a professor of psychology at Mount St. Mary College and co-director with my dear friend and colleague, Jeffrey Kahana, of our Center on Aging and Disability Policy. Every week, what we're doing is meeting at Wednesday at 10 o'clock and recording a dialogue and discussion between Peggy Pisano as a school psychologist and advocate, and Lisa Nathan as a parent and advocate and meditator. It was never our intent to develop this forum as a town hall. What it was an opportunity to let people know we're doing this, but our real strength in this is to be able to get it out through our networks, through our mailing list, and through our email mailing list, YouTube videos. We now have a YouTube channel, which I'll send out the link for later. And a number of agencies have actually contacted me and said that they really thanked us for doing this forum because they're using it as an in-service training. We are under no illusion that a parent that is home with children and a child with special needs has the opportunity to just arrive at 10 o'clock on a Wednesday and sit down for an hour and be able to participate. That's not the rhythm of the day. Our reach and our strength, and we did this when we were doing platform training, is we never wanted to go to a parent and say, great news, we have a program regarding stress reduction. The only problem is attending it is going to increase your stress. Trying to attend it, trying to make all the arrangements. So we're very happy with what has morphed here to the surface, and the emails that we have received and the comments that we have received have been wonderful and positive, and we really do appreciate it. Our intent was to follow the guidelines and also how often and how long schools would be closed. It appears that right now is up in the air. So if schools are out for the rest of the semester, we can assure you and guarantee you, and we've agreed to do this, that we will be present in developing these types of forums every Wednesday at 10 o'clock throughout the school year. What I'd like to do is I'd like to now turn it over to Peggy Pisano and Lisa Nathan. They've come up, as you know, our grant is called ProActive Caring. The grant has been funded by the New York State Developmental Disability Council. Peggy and Lisa joined the grant probably about 7 or 8 months ago with the intent of accessing and targeting the school districts, especially the IEP process, special ed. And then all of a sudden, we're all living in a new world, and we ended up having this discussion, and what started out as an informal discussion has now turned into an actual program called ProActive Caring School Exchange. So what they've been able to do is they've been able to identify topics and be able to integrate into those topics the nature of this grant, which is on mindfulness-based stress reduction. So today's discussion and topic is called Living in a Mindful Way, Increasing Sleep, Mindful Eating, and Nutrition. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Peggy Pisano and Lisa Nathan.
So I think Lisa and I have kind of developed a strategy for participating in this video chat. One of the things that we talked about is that, I would talk a little bit or speak a little bit about what the issues are. And today our topic is sleep and maybe eating / nutrition, and give you some behavioral support, a little bit of data about the topic, and then some behavioral supports for parents who might be experiencing some of these difficulties with their children at home. That could be children with disabilities, children with non-disabilities. It could be people, adults, whatever. I think sleep and mindful eating, kind of crosses the barrier of everyone. So I don't know, Lisa, do you want to start with just some relaxation as we did last week, and then I'll kind of delve into the topic?
Sure, we can do that. One thing that I wanted to bring up in relation to sleep that we're going to do today is kind of building on the meditations we've done in the past. And one particular variety of meditation is progressive muscle relaxation. So this is something that's often used to help people go to sleep. I know I did it in the beginning when I was trying to go to sleep. And so I thought I'd do a little bit of it today. I'm not going to do the whole body as we're sitting here because we're not lying down, you know, but I kind of wanted to give an idea of what it was. So then you can explore more in the different meditations that I'm going to recommend at later. Okay, so I just have to open the door because my dog's trying to come in and she's making a lot of noise. So hold on one second. Oh, actually it was the cat, sorry. So he's just gonna like make a lot of noise and then be very annoying. All right. So as we're sitting, I want you to feel in contact with your chair, what you're sitting on, your feet flat on the floor, feeling your feet on the floor. Okay. And we'll start with, normally you start with your feet. So you know what, we'll just do the whole thing. I'll just do it a little bit more quickly. I want to put your focus on your feet. Remember, you're breathing in. You can just breathe naturally in through your nose, out through your nose. You're going to put your focus on your feet. And you can even tense them up a little bit and let them relax. You're going to move to your ankles. You're going to put your attention there and feel them relax. When you're lying in bed, obviously you're feeling your body sinking into the mattress. It's going to be more effective in that regard, but you can still do muscle relaxation sitting up. You want to move your attention to your calves, your knees. Just feel them relax. If you feel any tension there, on your exhale, try to alleviate the tension with the exhale. Move on to your thighs, your pelvis. Feel yourself in your seat, just sinking into your seat. Move up the body to your torso. Feel it relax. Your shoulders, big source of holding tension. Breathe in. Exhale, feel them relax. One thing you can even do is purposefully tense your shoulders up, hold for a few seconds, and let it go. This is great to do for the entire body as well. And do your hands. Feel your palms. Your arms. Put your focus there. Let them get heavy. Feel your hands heavy in your lap. Your neck. Your jaw is also a great source of holding tension. If you feel your mouth parted, just your teeth parted just a little bit, don't clench your teeth. Feel your jaw relax. We also hold a lot of tension in our face. Let your eyes sink back into their sockets. Let them relax. I'm not going to do it here and now, but you can also scrunch up all the muscles in your face and just let them relax. Scan your body if you've developed any tension. Let it go. Feel your whole head relax, just floating on your shoulders. And just breathe. Okay. And that would be excellent. We'll come back now. If you want to gently wiggle a little bit. And that's a great source of relaxation for going to sleep. But I'm going to talk about that some more later, but I wanted to introduce that for today. Thanks, Peggy.
I forgot to unmute me. Okay, great. Thanks, Lisa. So I did a little bit of research on the area of sleep. I'm certainly not a sleep expert, but I just wanted to give some statistical information about sleep. Obviously, everybody knows what the definition of sleep is, but the National Sleep Foundation revealed that there are 40 million people out there that suffer some kind of sleep difficulty. And it could be chronic, which, happens over a longer period of time, or it could be, sort of just individualized. And what they sort of said was that sleep varies across people and across ages. So what might be natural sleep for me is different for you and different for older people and younger people. School-aged children should sleep approximately 9 to 11 hours. Those are younger students or children, those hours throughout the night. Teenagers, ages like 14 to 17, around that time frame, should sleep 8 to 10 hours a night. And these are just guidelines. They're not definitive hours that you must sleep. And then young adults and adults should sleep 7 to 8 hours or so a night. What I thought was kind of interesting is that they, had some information about if you immediately fall asleep, that doesn't mean you're a good rested sleeper. It might mean that you're very tired. That generally speaking, it should take us 10 to 20 minutes or so to fall asleep. And that's considered average. So, when we're lying there thinking about how we're not sleeping, we have to kind of keep in mind that one, it's variable for everybody, but two, that the average amount of time it takes us to fall asleep is anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes. Your body's natural sleep cycle is a 24-hour period. And so what happens with that is that people get more tired as it gets darker, and as it gets lighter in the morning, your body starts to wake up, and that's kind of the shift of what people should do. Now, obviously, again, it's variable and it depends on who you are and where you live and how much light comes in your room and so on and so forth. I thought it was a very interesting quote in the research that I did, that one of the things it said was that when you have a problem sleeping, the less, the more you worry about sleeping, the less you sleep. And so it kind of drives itself, which is not a good thing. So, I think some of the relaxation techniques that Lisa's going to show us later will hopefully help reduce that anxiety and stress over not sleeping, because again, the more you worry about it, the less you sleep. And one of the other things it said specifically in the research is that sleep varies. So some nights you might be a really solid sleeper, and then maybe another night not so much. And so you have to look at it over a time frame and not just a specific, Monday night, Tuesday night. You have to kind of look at it over the course of time. If you have chronic issues, then then maybe there are things that have to happen. So some of the strategies that I looked at when we looked at the research was just for everybody. And this is a difficult thing, that you should sleep in a cool, dark place. And dark means total darkness. So if you have the light even from your alarm clock, or if you have a plug-in of some sort in your room, that light kind of stimulates the brain to think that it's time to wake up. So total darkness if you really need to learn how to sleep better. Avoid caffeine later in the day. Some people are really impacted by caffeine, and so are some children. So, as the day progresses, less caffeine, maybe midday on, no caffeine. One of the things that is really critical, I think, with children, students, people with disabilities, is that computer cell phone thing. All of those blue lights kind of stimulate the brain again to think, just like any light in your room, to think that it's time to wake up. And so you'll have a less rested sleep. What we used to find in school often was that students would have those cell phones in their room, and they might not be making calls, but when it's dinging because a friend texted them, or it's dinging because they got an email or whatever, all of that stuff wakes you up. And so difficult thing, but we used to always recommend to parents, take the cell phone, put it someplace else even if it has to be in the parents' room if the child is having difficulty separating from their cell phone or their iPad or what have you, but get it out of the room, because all of those things, kind of impact sleep. TVs in bedrooms, that also keeps the brain processing information, the light from the TV. It takes a good 30 to 60 minutes once you've kind of shut the TV down to kind of get the brain thinking that it's time to go to sleep. So as best possible, I think a lot of us fall asleep with the TV on or have a TV in bedrooms. Kids who have difficulty sleeping oftentimes have TVs and things in their room. It's probably not a good idea. If in fact they need some kind of calming, a white noise machine helps, and you can kind of buy them anywhere, or music, sometimes very calming music, not music with lyrics, but music that's a symphony kind of music or just instrumental music might give a student or a child or adult for that matter, just enough calming to kind of get to sleep and sleep more readily. When sleep kind of eludes people, we shouldn't nap. We should try to keep to a regular sleep cycle. And so what happens is if you nap, and if you nap too long, then you've impacted your sleep cycle for that night. So no napping, or if you have to nap, a very short nap, 15 to 20 minutes is, kind of maximum for napping. But then, try not to nap and then try to go to bed at the same prescribed time that you would typically go. Not later, not earlier, just kind of try to keep to that schedule. Physical activity also helps, kind of keeping you active during the day, which is difficult in these times, certainly, but activities that are aerobic kind of help the body slow down and get better sleep. Some of the behavioral strategies for children with disabilities, or just children in general: create a bedtime routine so that one thing leads to the next, and that the end result is you're in bed. So, maybe it's dinner and then some TV, and then we brush our teeth and wash our face and read a book, but at some point, each thing leads to the next thing, and then the eventuality is you're in bed and you're, expected to go to sleep. Not active things. You can't ramp your child up and then expect them to calm down and go right to sleep. It just doesn't work like that. You're stimulating the body and the mind, and therefore it's harder to fall asleep. Keeping a sleeping diary of your child. So for example, if you think they're getting up a lot during the night, or if they're not getting to sleep, or they're coming out of the bedroom every time, you kind of send them to bed, keep some kind of diary if you can, although you have to worry about keeping yourself awake in the middle of the night for that, but keep some kind of diary, because I think when we chart things, we can often see where we've been, where we're going, and maybe it's not so bad. So that's an important thing. And then also that kind of charting and diary with the child, then you can say, look, last night we slept the whole night and we stayed in bed, and you can review that with your child. And then, just like we always talk about, praising for appropriate behavior. So if your child stayed in bed after that bedtime routine, then that's something that's, in the morning we talk about, we praise, we say, okay, you stayed in bed, you get a sticker depending on who they are, you get a tangible depending on who they are. So all of that behavioral charting, I think, is important, and it's always important to, reward either tangibly or by praising your child. If your child will not sleep without you in the room, and there's many kids that are in that sort of predicament, especially in today's world where everything is sort of, upside down. One of the things that you can do is kind of develop in that routine. If you have to stay in the room, maybe put a chair next to the bed, read the bedtime story, have the child be in bed, and then sort of fade your presence as time goes on. So for a few nights, you're right next to the bed. Then for a few more nights, you're further away from the bed, and then later on you're even further from the bed, so that you're moving towards the door while the child stays in bed. And again, praising and rewarding until eventually you're sort of standing in the hallway, if you will, and the child is still in bed. That takes a long time because, there's setbacks and things like that. But I think that that's a way of having your child stay in bed, having you be present for them if they're afraid or fearful, but also working towards them sleeping in their room and you moving towards, the rest of your evening. So that's, kind of called a fading technique, and you move towards the door and away from the child. I think, some of those things could work with adults and children with disabilities sort of across the board. I think some of the other things that were recommended is, and maybe Lisa, you can speak to this, but is that weighted blanket for some kids who really need that proprioceptic kind of support. The weighted blanket, which you see out in the world all over the place now, is very helpful in kind of keeping them confined and feeling like a cocoon. So, there are different strategies for different people depending on, what their needs and strengths and weaknesses are. So that's just some little behavioral support. So Lisa, if you want to talk a little bit about what we can do in a meditative or relaxed kind of way.
Sure. And yeah, that weighted blanket, it's calming the central nervous system. It's calming your nervous system, which is what some of these other techniques do. So, most of you know my story and, or part of my story, that my husband had passed away from Alzheimer's and Lewy body dementia. And when he was home, I was a complete wreck. I was so stressed and anxious. And when he went to the nursing home, by that time my sleep patterns were horrible. I was, doing word puzzles all, for hours. I'd watch videos. If I woke up in the middle of the night, I would just get on my phone, and, it was just like really bad. What was going on. And a few months after he went to the nursing home, and I started a meditation practice. And one of the things I learned, there's many obviously benefits to sleeping well, health benefits, and also lack of sleep. And one of the things I learned is that lack of sleep can contribute to the onset of Alzheimer's disease. I think that there may be a correlation, and that really scared me. I was a surviving parent. I had to be there for my kids. So I really made the commitment to try to develop good sleep habits. One of the things I did, as I learned the meditation, I was on this app, and I'm going to mention it later too as a resource. It's called Insight Timer, and that'll be up in the resources. And I would start with some guided meditations for sleep. One of them, and I have it listed, has almost 9 million plays on it. And they have a whole category for sleep. And it's a gentle relaxation guiding you to sleep. There are some, muscle relaxation resources and meditations on that as well. When we're lying awake at the middle of the night, or we have the same thoughts as during the day, but without distractions, they are like right front and center, just there, like this, like feeling like a real physical presence. And, meditation is similar to going to sleep. It's the process of letting go. When you're lying there at night and you desperately want to go to sleep, you can't force yourself to go to sleep. You have to let it go. You have to let the day go and let your body, come to rest. And meditation can help. And there's studies, there's thousands and thousands of studies on the benefits of meditation. One being that increases melatonin, which is the sleep hormone, increases serotonin, which is the precursor to melatonin. It can reduce your heart rate, decrease your blood pressure, and actually activates the part of the brain that activates sleep. Your body actually experiences the same changes in the early stages of sleep as it does in meditation, which is one of the ways that meditation can help you relax into sleep. And in fact, we were talking yesterday, and I found this Harvard study that had two trials. One was for the study group was to increase sleep hygiene, like you were talking about, all the things that help, and then one doing meditation. And actually the meditation group actually improved the most. And these were people who had moderate sleep disorders. So there's real impact and real benefits to meditation for sleep. And like, you said, you have to release your judgments and your expectations. You cannot force yourself to go to sleep. You have to let go. So I put together some possibilities on helping you go to sleep. One, and you kind of mentioned this with children, but is journaling. If that's kind of your thing, writing down your worries and concerns can take it out of your head into something more concrete, so you can kind of look at it more consciously and be more aware about what's worrying you. Another one, which I wasn't aware of, but seemed really interesting to me, is called the 5-4-3-2-1 technique. So when you're lying there at night, you concentrate on 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can touch, 3 things that you can hear, 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. Again, it's taking yourself out of your head and into your body. And this is a recurring theme. If you haven't, that I talk about over and over again, because no matter whether you're, it's the middle of the day or at 3 o'clock in the morning, anxiety is disembodying. You're in your head and you're not in your body. And what all these techniques do is help you come back to your body so you can relax, because you're not going to go to sleep if you're not relaxed, and helps you relax. Be kind and compassionate to yourself. Don't berate yourself for lying there that you can't go to sleep. Don't berate yourself for thinking all these things. Be kind, be compassionate. Progressive muscle relaxation, which we did a little bit before. 4-7-8 breathing. It's similar to the breathing we did last week. All these are kind of similar. Take a nice deep breath in through your nose for 4 seconds. Hold your breath for 7 seconds. Breathe out through your mouth for 8 seconds. Gently for 4 cycles. Again, this is a natural tranquilizer for your body and will help you relax. And even if you get caught up in the counting, even just deep breathing. Breathing as much as you can. Inhale through your mouth. Exhale as much as you, inhale through your nose and exhale as much as you can through your mouth. Meditating for a few minutes, focusing on your breath. If your mind is, going on overdrive, just come back to your breath and let your body naturally relax. And again, if I had mentioned it before, I'm going to mention it again. Be kind and compassionate to yourself, first and foremost. And I mentioned the Insight Timer, and I mentioned the apps, and I have a list of them. And just a couple of things. That first one I mentioned with almost 9 million plays is a Yoga Nidra technique for relaxation. There's some really good music on there, and that you can use. One of my favorites is a composer named Pablo Arellano, and I'll list him. You can listen to theta waves and delta waves. Those are the waves that form in deep sleep, and you can listen to some of those. Some really good deep sleep music is on there. Body scans, like the muscle relaxation body scans, to get you out of your mind and into your body. And one of my favorites now is bedtime tales. And these are also on that sleep category, listening to stories. And I have yet to hear the ending of The Velveteen Rabbit, because it puts me to sleep every single time. Just for me, it's very relaxing. We read to our kids. I remember reading to them and falling asleep when I was reading to them, and my son would poke me at, mommy, finish reading the story. I just find it really relaxing. Find what works for you. Explore a little bit. I know you're not supposed to have your phone on, but I just, I set it, I shut it off so the light is off, and that really helps me. Again, find what works for you. And those are some things that I can, the other thing is there are some podcasts. I have not worked with them, but there's actually one called Sleep With Me and Sleep Meditation Podcast. And I think they just talk until the story gets more and more quiet and boring, I could put you to sleep. So I don't know, maybe worth a try. Thanks.
Lisa, thank you so much. And Peg, thank you so much. I mean, the things that the two of you, brought to the table, and this is what we had hoped for, from the behavioral perspective, the meditation, from the advocate school psychologist, from the parent, advocate. Peg, the reference about the fading techniques and the weighted blanket. And, Lisa, your point, I love that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique, and your point about, being the surviving parent that you had, and you and I have had conversations about this offline. You never thought this was going to work when you were going through the most, disruptive time of your personal life. And then it became a practice. And now here you are, X number of years later, not only practicing it, but teaching others how to do it. And I like the fact that, that reference you said about meditation is like going to sleep. When we were talking about how the main points that Lisa and Peggy were going to present, Lisa mentioned something about, learning how to go to sleep, and it hit me because it's something that we always think is so natural, but there's so many things going on, whether it be technological things in your family, now world events that are so distractive and increase anxiety, that it really is a technique about learning how to go to sleep, and this whole idea of, the connection between, serotonin and melatonin. I mean, it's, we're natural producers of that. So the two of you, the theme today, about living in a mindful way, increasing sleep, mindful eating, and nutrition. I think that, and we talked about this, and both of you, and that's why I love working with both of you, because you'll be very clear. Look, I'm not an expert in a particular area. I'm not sitting here as a nutritionist. That's what both of you said. But we can give some strategies of how to go about doing this, and I think that, what I'd like to do is open it up for comment and observation. So please, I encourage you to engage with us and engage with Peggy and Lisa. You just have to unmute your phone.
Can I bring up something, Larry, about
Please.
Mindful eating?
Yes.
We eat out of, I'm a stress eater, emotional eater. And, one thing I've learned, and I try to use this, is to be kind to yourself. When we're overeating or we're getting on our case because, how come I had that, the cookie, or I had the ice cream, we tend to berate ourselves. And that doesn't work. We know it doesn't work with our own children, yet we do it with ourselves. And what I'm suggesting is be kind to yourself. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. When we think about, when you're in the kitchen and, you're eating, or you ate something you shouldn't have, or you feel like you shouldn't have, just like, what? It's okay. I have another breath. I have another moment. I can do better next time. I can take care of myself. And just to practice being kind to ourselves, because I think that we don't do that when we do that with, with our eating, if we have any eating disorders or we have any eating issues, we tend to really be down on ourselves. So I would suggest to do the opposite.
Thanks.
And I'd just like to jump in a little bit about the eating and the nutrition. Again, in today's world, and I think as parents, we always want our children to eat nutritionally and eat correctly. And we want that for ourselves as well, I think. But again, in today's world where there's high stress and anxiety, children feel that. And sometimes eating issues, which were somewhat difficult before, become more paramount in today's world. So again, I'm not a nutritionist, as Larry said. I want to make that disclaimer, but as a behavioralist, you really do need to relax some of those guidelines with your children in terms of their eating. There are many children with disabilities who only eat certain textures, who only eat certain colors, who only eat in certain ways. And so there are ways to get perhaps more nutritional food in those categories. But I think food battles are not, it's kind of like sleeping. If you worry about the food battle that you're going to have with your child, then you're going to have a food battle with your child, because, the parent is is pushing the food and the child is not going to eat the food, and then you have that kind of battle going on. And again, as long as people eat, and we'd all like everybody to eat healthily, but I think if you can get your child to eat, then you can relax some of those guidelines. Some ways to get your child to eat better or more healthily is to kind of get them involved in the food and planning process. So what do you like to eat? Let's shop for that, or if you're shopping online, or let's put it on the grocery list. Help me prepare what I'm making so that the child has part of that. It might be a little messier than perhaps the mother or the father or the caregiver who's cooking would typically do, but let the child get involved in that so that they can kind of have a part of that food process. And sometimes that helps make things go a little bit more smoothly. But I think don't battle over the food. I mean, certainly unless your child is very extreme and not eating anything. Allow your child to have a couple of choices. You're making X, Y, and Z dinner, and they can eat that, or they can eat maybe one or two other things. I wouldn't give them a choice of everything in the kitchen, because then you're going to be a short order cook cooking for 10 meals for everybody in the room. So you can have this or this. Pick something, but try to pick something that they like, that that typically they would eat, and then you can expand upon it. Don't put an overwhelming amount of food on a plate. Put a little bit so it doesn't look overwhelming to the child, and then they might eat that. And then again, we're always praising and talking about what a good job they did in eating, but put less food on a plate so that they can accomplish something and they feel like they've accomplished something. And then also you can give rewards for, eating appropriately, sitting at the table, doing all of the standard kinds of things. And rewards could be, we're going to make ice cream sundaes for dessert, or rewards, we're going to play a game after dinner, or you can have video time, or when you do a reward system, you have to find what's rewarding to that person. If I don't like ice cream, then that's not going to be a reward. But you have to kind of work with your children. But I think, again, in today's world where life is much more stressful than typically, avoiding food battles is probably a good strategy, because the more we battle, it's like sleep. The more we worry about sleep, the less we sleep. The more we battle over food, probably the less likely that food's going to get consumed, and the dinner hour, lunch hour, whatever time you're eating is going to be more and more problematic. And I think the parent's going to gear up for that battle before the dinner hour ever starts. So I think some of the relaxation techniques or the calming techniques that we've kind of discussed can happen on the part of the parent or the guardian before we get to the table, so that we're sort of ready and relaxed to get through the dinner hour or the food hour. So again, I think, just sort of calm over the typical day and food difficulties that students, children, people might have had in the past.
And the points you make are so well taken. When Lisa and Peggy joined the ProActive Caring Project, the intent was, and they were doing it, is to reaching out to school districts. And one of the conversations we all had as members of the team is, wouldn't it be wonderful if every IEP process started with a moment of meditation? It would just, calm things down, because in those settings, sometimes there's a lot of conflict. And as we had a discussion about their presentation today, one of the things that came up is, wouldn't it be wonderful if everybody, because there are families, ours included, that before we eat, we'll say a prayer or grace. Wouldn't it be wonderful if families had the opportunity before we got to the dinner table, when we arrived at the dinner table, to have like a moment of just quiet thinking? But then what came up is, how realistic is that? And then, Lisa and Peggy, coming from their expertise and their experience, said, maybe it doesn't have to be that formal. Maybe it can be game oriented or fun oriented, or, Peg's point about, everybody has a great dinner time experience and we're all making ice cream sundaes afterwards. So it's reality based. And that's the beauty of what the two of you are bringing to the table, and what we're hearing in people contacting us about this. This is not a talking head presentation. This is reality. And the two of you have done a wonderful job in creating a voice, okay, a collective, integrated voice. How about some comments for a few minutes? Debbie, there's zero chance that you're not going to be able to comment, okay? You got to unmute yourself.
Hi. So,
So good to see you. So, thank you.
from
I want to say so good to see you, and thank you so much for being involved.
yes, of course. So going off of something that Lisa said, I usually use this app called Calm. And it also has some like those stories, like the background music and all that stuff. And I have a 9-year-old niece, and I use it with her too. And we never finish the stories. It just she just falls asleep like 15 minutes after. So I do find that it's helpful for me as an adult and for my niece as well. So that's another option as well.
Thanks. Thanks. And I think, you know, it's very clear that the technological support is out there in order to develop these types of habits and patterns. Anyone else? Wendy, Elaine, Jamie?
Sure. Hey, so I do know Debbie, sorry. I kind of mute myself because we're all working from home, and I have a 2-year-old that it's hard. Yeah, and I parent 2 other older children. So not only is this beneficial to me in my work setting, but also in my personal life, as and I'm okay with sharing this. I recently just came back to work on Monday. I was out for 3 weeks because my husband is a registered nurse and got COVID-19. He was exposed at work and he brought it home, and we all got it. So, and of course my work phone is going off. So it was something scary. My husband was hospitalized for 3 weeks. The family had to deal with all that. And I also had to deal with my own symptoms. Luckily, I didn't get them that bad because I had to take care of my kids. And, you know, a 2-year-old doesn't understand mommy's sick. Luckily, their symptoms weren't bad. And I guess I just pushed through. So I also have that app that Debbie said. And I've been using it because ever since, you know, dealing with my husband, not knowing if he was gonna live through the day or not. He was hospitalized for 3 days and got pneumonia. Oh God, I'm sorry. Okay, hold on 1 second. Sorry, I'm pretty sure you guys heard that. So it was rough, and I'm trying to use new things because I have to take it to the bathroom. I'm sorry.
Thank you so
as
much.
I try to go back to sleep, and I'm having issues as well, is what I wanted to say. Sorry.
Well, thank you. And anything we can do to help, and thank you, okay? I'm so glad to hear about the recovery. Thank you. All right, anyone else before we say goodbye for today?
I just want to say, Debbie, I started with Calm. So yeah, I found those, and I love that. So kudos, you found something that works. So awesome. I'm glad to hear that.
It's wonderful. Well, look, thank you again, Peggy. Thank you again, Lisa. And next week we'll be back at 10 o'clock, but outstanding job. All right, everyone be well now. Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye now.